Welcome to the Celtic Heart Temple. My name is Erica and I'm the founder of the temple. And today I'm so happy to speak to Flora Ojanen, right? Which is a movement specialist, who is a movement specialist, a posture expert, and a registered teacher of the Alexander technique with over 20 years of teaching experience. So Flora teaches people the art of feeling happy, balanced, and supported in their body, and courageous in their heart. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here in your temple.
Oh, me too. So the reason why I invited you is because Celtic Heart Temple was built on a foundation of self-knowledge, self-mastery, and devotion. And talking to you and also working with you on my body, which was both transformational and very, very nourishing, really helped me and really showed me how our body plays an important part in our life, right? Because it's not enough to tend only to our mind and listen to the affirmations or read things that inspire us. Our body is where our soul lives and where all our emotions are stored, and our body is feeling how it is to live on this life day in and day out. So if we're not connected, if we're not in tune with what is happening in the body, nor we are aware of its basic structure or its basic needs or what you can and cannot do with it, then you will just feel tired and kind of stuck and really not at home in your body versus happy and joyful and, full of life, right? So Flora, I suppose let's start with, how did you arrive onto this path, right? How did you become an Alexander technique teacher? And so where did your journey start, Jen?
Thanks for asking. I remember my childhood was not really easy. I grew up in East Berlin, and life was complicated, and especially my family life was complicated. And I feel like all my life I was looking to be loved, like we all are. I know.
Yeah.
It's not very special to me, but it was really visceral in my body. I always tried very hard to please that one caregiver, and it was very difficult to be acknowledged and to be held
Seen.
in high regards, and so it made me really sad. And I think it started when what then started was that my body started to react with compression and with tension and with hiding,
Yeah,
and I
in
got
here in the
really
chest,
shy.
right?
Yeah, and I got really shy, like being seen by other
Mm,
people or speaking my mind, because
mm,
that was not allowed at home, to speak my mind. And so
mm-hmm,
when I kept everything in,
mm-hmm.
my body got tighter and tighter, and I started to develop a tension headache when I was about
Okay.
14.
Mm,
That was like there all the time for many years. And back pain, I had a lot of back pain, and I felt so uncomfortable and so ugly and stupid in my body. I couldn't
mm,
really put my finger on it, but it was just the suffering that I had in my soul because of that. And it was so bad that when I was 17 years old, I ran away from home,
yeah.
because I was also really rebellious.
Mm,
Quietly, it was a quiet rebellion. I
yeah,
never
yeah.
screamed or never, spoke back to my parents,
Mm,
but it was like, I know who I am. I know I am something. I know
mm,
I'm important.
mm,
And I don't know to whom or how, but I know in myself, just for myself, that's good enough. And I can't stay anymore. And I ran away from home and
mm,
squatted in an apartment, um, and and lived there for a few years while I was also at the university. But I was living a very a life that was isolated,
mm,
and I was just trying to find ways to help my pain, to ease my pain. And I
mm,
looked everywhere. By then the wall has come down, and the world was open to the new experience was there. We could
Wow.
do and travel and find new ways. And I looked everywhere, you know,
Uh-huh.
from ideas about existentialism to how other people live in other countries, and I followed some Indian gurus, and none of that ever really. I studied massage and
Mm-hmm.
energy healing, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
social work, and I looked everywhere. Like I wanted to help people, and I wanted to help myself, and I could not find until one day when I went to a workshop. Just I stumbled into a workshop basically one evening, and I didn't know what it was about, but it was about feeling better. So I said, okay, I want to go feel better. And the teacher then invited me to come to the chair and have some work. And he was just talking to the group and guiding me in and out of a chair, and did something to my head and my spine and moved me, and was just, this was so easy,
Mm.
and everything was simple and warm and welcoming. But all of a sudden I had such a strong emotional experience that I
Mm.
started crying so wildly, and I I took his hands off my body. I said, and I cried, and I could not believe the feeling. There was an emotional
Wow.
opening almost,
Yeah.
that I could not understand what was happening. And I
Mm.
cried, and I felt so tall all of a sudden,
Mm.
and so great, and so empowered and strong.
Mm.
And I was so flabbergasted by the feeling that I had in my body, that when I went on my bicycle
Uh-huh.
home, I felt like I was flying, and I had a crown on my head, and I don't know, it was so powerful. And I
Mm.
went home, I could not, I didn't know what happened. How is that possible? But
Mm.
it lasted a few days. And so then I went back and I seeked out um, some lessons about this, you know, and it was the Alexander technique
Mm.
was that I experienced. And then a few years later, I trained for 3 years as an Alexander technique teacher myself. And
Okay.
yeah, and now for 2 decades, I help people find more ease and power in their body. And,
Wow.
you know, and I learned that it is about how I use myself,
Mm.
how I use myself. And the word use is used as a noun. The use, I use this object, like you use your coffee machine in the morning. You know, when
Mm-hmm.
you make coffee in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
or you drip coffee, however, but you need to use it a certain way so it makes this nice drink that you
Yeah.
like. And so if you change up, you know, what you do, it might not, if you forget the filter, or you use something else, the wrong mark, and it doesn't drip into the mark. So if you don't use the coffee machine a certain way, it doesn't really work so well. You don't get
Mm.
what you want. And it's the same with the body. If I use the body in a certain way, it functions really well. And that
Mm-hmm.
has to
Mm-hmm.
do with our evolutionary design.
Wow, wow. Yeah, and as you were talking, like I'm adjusting my body as well, you know, thinking, okay, am I sitting right? Am I sitting correctly, right? Um, and also feeling my head, right? Because I have certain tendency. And I remember even when you and me worked together, how much resistance and different emotions I have experienced when you were directing my body into the correct posture, you know. It's like, oh my God, that's this, you know. So I can completely relate. And there's something that we also touched around the way we are um, told as children, right? How to sit, how not to sit, and you know how we
Yes.
should not do our shoulders this way or that way.
Yeah, and
Uh,
concentrate.
yeah,
Concentrate, sit still, right? Pay
yeah,
attention.
yeah, yeah,
Those
and
commands are so misleading and terrible for us.
definitely, yeah, and like having children, I can so relate, you know, because there are days when they come home from school and they really don't like school, you know,
Yes.
and because children inevitably they are not they're full of energy, right? They're not meant to sit and concentrate for like 6 hours or something in the school. And when I was a child, I used to always blank out and just look through the window, and always was told by the teacher that you should not daydream, you know. But
Yes.
inevitably, when we do that, our mind rests, right? And then our body gets a moment of rest as well. And
Yes.
if, and even now as an adult, I can't sit still on the chair. Right? There is no way. If I do sit still on the chair and like engrossed in something that I'm doing, I can immediately feel how there are certain areas in my body just go tighten and tighten and tighten. And I'm
Yes.
sure the same is for the kids, right? When they are sitting in one position on a chair that probably not ergonomically is the most perfect chair for them sitting on for many hours in the day, that has an effect on their posture, on their body, and then whatever tension they experience in school, then they bring home. And then we
Yes.
as parents experience all of that tension that they accumulated in the school,
Yeah,
right?
that's interesting that you're mentioning the ergonomically correct chair. And
Mm.
that's a myth. So in my work, I bust a lot of posture myths.
Go, okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun because it's so eye-opening. It's so exciting because there is no such a thing as an ergonomically correct chair. There's only a way to use, and
Uh-huh.
I can show you with my skeleton, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
It's,
yeah.
there's only a way to sit in such a way on any surface
Uh-huh.
where your sit bones are connecting to the
Uh-huh.
ground,
Uh-huh.
and your spine and your head are in an upward
Kind of
motion,
like that, yeah.
and then the movement is happening like this to
Uh-huh.
come to write, to write on the paper. But
Yeah.
when you have an idea of the correct chair, you forget that you come with a design. Your
Mm.
skeleton, your bones, your structure has a design to it that is evolutionarily, yeah, developed.
Mm-hmm.
And we are upright human beings. We're not slouchy human beings, right? We
Mm-hmm.
don't want to slouch into things. But the problem is when the seat is too soft, we sink
Mm.
into it. Our structure cannot anymore respond to gravity.
Mm.
So
Mm.
there are some ways to understand, really practical ways, how the human body is designed to be upright
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
posture, and it has to do with gravity. And we have a saying: if you cannot stand on it, don't sit on it.
Oh my God.
Right? Because
Uh-huh.
when you try to stand on something that's too squishy, too
Yeah, yeah.
soft,
Yeah, there's no
too movable,
foundation, right?
we cannot keep up and be buoyant and free and open. Right? We
Mm.
have to fix. We think we have to fix to kind of deal with this,
Mm-hmm.
and or we collapse down and fall over because we can't keep balance. So
Mm-hmm.
the perfect chair is really just a flat surface that is
Mm.
firm enough for our structure to find a balance point, which is the sit bones in sitting. There's an actual design, right? Many people
Mm-hmm.
have heard of the sit bones,
Mm.
and over which the spine just like a seaweed just
Mm.
undulates into an upward flow
Mm.
towards the light. And when we allow that, the breath is happening, the eyes and the face, everything has it, the senses have incoming information, and they can notice what's going on, and then we feel safe in our body.
Mm.
And
Mm.
when that's not really given to us, then our body acts habitually by holding a certain way, that we have learned to sit. Because
Mm.
sitting
Mm.
is not a good idea for children, as you say. They
Yeah,
start
yeah.
moving around and then they're not allowed to move around. So
Mm-hmm.
they hold themselves by trying to please the teacher.
Mm. Mm.
And they try to write the ABC really well, and they put the head sideways and maybe put the tongue out, trying really, trying to write it really hard with the shoulder raising
Yeah,
up
yeah.
and the ribs starting to be stuck.
Mm.
Yeah, and then when they get older, they can easily write a love letter, but
Mm.
the pattern is still in them. And then they go into the world, do everything with that pattern. So
Wow.
when we talk about posture, we need to really understand that it is
Mm.
a mental change, first of all, not to sit correctly on a correct chair necessarily. This
Mm.
helps to understand our design. It helps for our
Mm.
body to be free and easy. But there's also another component to posture, and that's the mental emotional and spiritual part, what
Mm.
we believe, about ourselves.
Yeah.
That plays also out on how we are using our body.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. Like, since I began studying and practicing yoga, um, I've definitely learned a lot about my body, and that also helped me tremendously to to connect and fall into the body in order to understand and discern between different experiences that I was experiencing because I was living in the head all the time. And once that connection was established, and I'm still continuing now adding more body related practices in order to really in tune into the, as you say, design, right? How is my body designed? Okay, how does the energy now move through my body?
Mhm.
Where does it go? Where it doesn't go? Where do I feel my body and where I don't feel my body? Because if we are to step onto the path to truly living from our heart, right, and sharing our gifts and something that comes naturally to us, then knowing how to be friends with our body, how to listen to it, connect to it, how to understand it is such an important step.
Yes.
And so, how did your understanding of your body helped you in overcoming challenges, let's say, in
Yeah.
your life, in like whatever area you choose to?
Yeah. That first experience with being allowed to have this functioning, free relationship in myself, to myself, and of
Mm,
myself, everything that I am freely being related and put together in this new way
yeah.
was so powerful that I realized how everything I do, if I reach for something in space,
Mm-hmm.
it's how am I preparing this movement in my mind? And it can be,
Mm-hmm.
if it's just a habitual, quick,
Yeah, just
quick,
show it, hand it there.
yeah, I'm moving from places that are maybe not so effective and efficient.
Okay.
But I can, and then when I keep doing that over and over, like on the computer, I'm always typing with my
Mm-hmm.
shoulders a little high and my head
Forward,
forward.
yeah.
I start to create a lot of troubles in my body that become habitual.
Mm-mm-mm.
And I have learned that when I can pre-think,
Mm-hmm.
when I can consciously think about, okay, this doesn't work because it gives my shoulder a pain, or I have a neck pain, or I get a tension headache because I'm always tightening into myself every time I
Mm,
reach. But if I
mm,
can stop for a moment and make a new plan in my mind, how I
mm.
want to go about it, I have so many new possibility and choices in life. And
Yeah.
it is really about understanding how am I designed? Like, what is an arm? Where does the arm begin?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, for instance, if I think about my arm beginning at my shoulder, that this is the joint that moves my arm, then I have a trouble because then I will always use all the musculature over here pulling it
Mm,
up.
mm.
Because that's the way, how do I move my shoulder? I move it by tensing the neck muscles and the shoulder, the upper part, the area. But if
That's
I
so
can
interesting.
understand that my shoulder is actually designed and connected and originates here on the collarbone, on the sternoclavicular joint,
Mm,
then I can think, oh, I can let go of this whole part of me into movement. And then I move as a unit. I
mm,
bring my whole self to it. My body naturally erects itself,
mm-hmm,
in the movement, and there's a
mm-hmm,
freedom coming into it. And if I can just learn how to analyze myself, oh,
mm,
every time I take my violin,
mm,
what am I thinking? Am I already thinking, oh, I might not be so good today. I don't feel so good, or my arm is really tired, or he doesn't love me anymore, or I need to really please the teacher tomorrow. I have a concert. Whatever it is, it will influence the way you
mm,
hold your arm. So you can, the power I know I learned in life with this is that I can understand, okay, what is it that I am thinking? And is that efficient and effective for doing a beautiful, you know, a piece of music, or is it not? And how is it not? Because if you also develop pain like this, then let's look at how you are thinking and how you're using. So it's two things: how you're using yourself in the movement and what you're thinking. To be
Yeah.
clear, to have a clear channel for your expression, for your creativity as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow, wow. You know, like on one side, when I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, oh my God, there's so much to learn, right? Like there's so many different pieces that I need to be aware of. How much of this awareness can I actually sustain, right? How much of this awareness can I be in on a daily basis, right? And there is a perfectionist side of me that thinks, okay, do I need to be aware all of the time in order to be free and balanced and supported in my body, right? And or can I just like forget about my body sometimes and
Yeah,
just do whatever I want, you
very
know?
good. I get that question all the time.
Yeah.
And the it's a little bit of trouble to talk about the whole self
Mm,
in order to make it, in order to grasp it. We really have to talk about the different pieces, and then it sounds very complicated. It is not really,
mhm,
because if you think about a turtle
mhm.
or a tortoise, think of a tortoise, a turtle, right? If a
Yeah,
turtle gets scared of something in the environment, what does it do?
just retracts into its shell, right?
What does it retract?
Legs, arms, and the head.
Everything.
Oh, yeah.
Tail, everything
Tail.
goes under the shell.
Uh-huh.
And humans are just like a turtle.
Oh.
When we get scared, and those thoughts that I talked about, I'm
Mhm,
not good enough, I need to really be perfect for my concert, or I don't
mhm.
want to have pain anymore. I'm so annoyed by myself having this pain, or my body is the bad thing here, gives me pain.
Yeah.
If I have all those thoughts, they all create a stimulus that we
Mhm,
react to in our body
mhm.
with the turtle pattern. Let's just say it like this for fun. It's that everything is going under, and it has to do with my head being pulled into my spine.
Mhm,
See,
mhm.
if I turn a little sideways, is that everything kind of goes into my center. Everything is
Yeah.
pulled in. My arms are pulled in.
Uh-huh.
My belly is tight. My chest, my diaphragm no longer works well. My head is being pulled in, and that
Mhm.
is really the fear reflex. The fear
Mm,
reflex is when when there's a loud noise, or you get, oh, I forgot so and so. You do the same thing. You pull your head into the spine and you contract everything in. And that's a reflex in an
mm,
attempt to stop everything for a moment so you can think about what to do next, or to hide, to not be seen. And
mm,
that's what humans do, just like turtles.
mm,
We are all stopping for a moment and pulling everything in. The
mm,
problem is that most people don't get out of this reflex
mm.
anymore. We do it so many times. I pick up my phone and I immediately pull down to the phone. Physically, I do the same thing as this fear, as the startle pattern coming over me.
Yeah.
So Alexandra is really learning about recognizing that in your daily life.
Mhm,
It's
mhm,
very simple, right? It's one stimulus that
mhm.
you're reacting to. It can be
Yeah.
an outside loud, the siren,
Uh-huh.
outside, or your own, like, I forgot to email this important person or something. Those
Mm,
moments are when we retract our body, just like the turtle,
mm,
and we don't get out of this pattern anymore so easily.
mm,
And
mm.
so when what I teach people is to recognize this pattern and then to come out of it. How does the turtle come out of it?
I have no idea.
All at once as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the turtle notices there's no more danger, and the turtle comes back out and goes about her business.
Okay.
The problem is that we as adults don't really do that anymore. We get
Yeah.
stuck because we're doing it all the time. We're reacting like this
Mm.
all the time. And you can see people.
Yeah, and it's in a way like you're teaching your body over and over, right? How to be
Yes.
On a daily
Yes.
basis. Yeah.
And your body always listens. And I want to
Mm,
say something very important that is really dear to my heart, that no matter what your body is doing or you think it's doing to you,
mm,
because nobody likes pain and inflammation or like in limitations of movement, but your
mm,
body is always listening to you in an attempt to help
mm,
you. Your
mm,
body is always on your side. Everything you tell yourself mentally, your body will let come true.
mm, mm.
That's what I have learned in my work, that
Wow.
you
Yeah.
cannot escape that, and that your body is never the bad guy. Your body is always your best friend, doing exactly what you ask it to do.
Mm,
So the thing is, we have to become conscious of what those programs are, and those are the
yeah.
habits that we work with. You
Mm,
know, if I always have the habit of pulling down to my phone, my job is to understand that habit. Why is it not good? What's happening in my whole self while I do this
mm,
that I don't like? And then make a conscious decision to change that reaction,
mm.
that reaction to my phone. And then
Yeah.
what can help here is to learn, oh, my arm, I can move my arm from my whole back and from the connection right here, and I
Mm-hmm.
can just bring it a little bit higher on the phone, so that I can still be in the fluid relationship to that object. So those are the
Mm,
choices. It's not so nitpicking on all these little, like, how do I do this and this and this. I know it sometimes seems like that because it's so
yeah.
difficult to speak about
Yeah.
that subject of the use of the self,
Mm,
self with the capital S, the self, the wholeness, your wholeness.
mm.
Because wherever you go, you bring your own whole self, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. And thank you for explaining that. That made for me, and I'm sure for those listening, a lot easier to understand and not overthink it, right? Because we can really overthink things, right? And really become stuck in
yes,
different ways of being. And as you've mentioned, with the body and with everything else. So, and I really like what you said about the conscious decision, right? Because, and I even have it written down in front of me, and it has been hanging there for at least 3 years, that we always have the choice, right? And we
yes,
get to choose what we want, right?
yes,
We get to choose how we feel. We get to choose how we think. We get to choose how we act, right? Well, how we act, not always consciously, because it's fueled by the subconscious also programming. However, we always have the choice. And having that choice to follow your heart, having that choice to feel good in your body, having the choice to feel empowered, right? Then will lead us to take those actions that are more aligned with what we truly want and what we deserve, right? Because we
yeah,
deserve nothing but the best.
that's right.
And a lot of people don't, yeah, a lot of us don't believe that, especially at the beginning of our journey into stepping into our greatness, right? And serving from our gifts and from our heart. Yet,
Yeah,
yeah, this
yeah,
is
and
what we deserve.
yeah, and I would like to add one more view of this idea with posture. Is
Mm,
I remember a story with a student of mine, with a client of mine, who was this 25-year-old worker at Google, and
mhm,
he came every week during his lunch break. He came for a lesson to work with me,
mhm,
and in the beginning, I remember he came and he said to me, "Flora, this might sound weird, but I every time I have a break, I go to coffee store and I order myself just so and so and so coffee, some complicated mix of something, and I
mhm,
have to wait for the barista to make the drink for me, and
mhm,
I stand in the corner and I don't know what do I do with my hands. How
mm.
do I stand and wait without feeling weird about myself?
Wow.
And I will never forget this because this is exactly what I went through, feeling strange about who you are and where you belong and what is this all about. And the body is kind of blank. There is no connection,
Mm,
no empowerment, no center, no knowing how I actually function in my body? And
Mm,
how can I be easy and confident? Obviously, he was successful.
mhm,
He had a good job, and everything seemed well, but still inside there's this voice. Oh, I'm strange. I don't know how to belong. And so he was one of my favorite clients at that time, because I could really help him to understand, okay, here you are, here's your body, here's your matter, your earth, your bones. This is
mm,
how they move in relation to each other, the
mm,
joints. And
mm,
here's gravity, and how you use the stimulus of gravity, that will inform your consciousness that you have a body, that you are a body,
mhm,
and that you can live in it, that you can make it your perfect house to express yourself from.
mm.
And we worked together, and he felt so easy, and his movements became really smooth, and yeah,
Oh,
it
wow.
helped his happiness in life for sure.
So where do you put your hands? As somebody who struggled with social anxiety for many years, being in social circumstances
Yes.
and being in my body was the most difficult thing ever because all I could feel is the nervousness, is the
Mhm.
worry, and all I wanted was just to hide somewhere in the corner and nobody to speak to me. Or, if I needed to initiate a conversation, that was even worse. And I remember my body being all like closed off and also shy, coming over and stuff like that. So where do you put your hands? What do you do with them?
Oh, not me working with you, but your hands, your hands just hang. Your
Good.
hands, your hands. So your hands are just a very powerful connection to the space that you
Mm,
are occupying, right? The hands
mhm.
are always what connects you to other parts in the room,
Yeah.
and your hands are, they're really coming from the part back here, the fascia and the muscles, everything connects into this line,
Mhm,
le- leading down your arm into
mhm.
your fingertips. So
Such a long hand.
totally check this out.
Look, it's so
and
long.
and realizing that your hand is not this thing that you have to put like tightly shyly over here, but that you can let go because you have freedom in the joints. So you learn how to create freedom in your joints,
Mm,
and the whole wing, it's like a big wing.
mm.
Your
I
arms are
love it.
really the fingers are really the end of a wing. And so
Wow.
learning this concept with images and skeletons, and parts of the body
Wow.
that are not really super scary and there's no blood anywhere. It's just understanding, seeing images, hearing stories about how the body is designed to function, that we really do have wings, makes
Mm,
this, oh, the end of the wing, makes the end of the wing a different experience than letting this feeling of shyness being taking over everything that you are.
mm,
So by understanding that your fingertips are part of a big structure that is like a winged structure,
mm.
takes you away from thinking too much in your head about yourself and starting to travel the inside spaces of your body
Oh, that's
in a
so
way,
empowering.
yeah, in a way that you direct yourself into space, just like your,
Mhm,
Google Maps. You go from A to B, this is the direction you want to go
mm,
there. So then you learn how to not think about your hands, how weird they feel, but you
mhm,
start thinking about the whole wing, and that the hand is just the expression of that wing, the
mm.
fine-tuned expression. So what I like to say in my work too is I make people full of themselves. I like to tell them, you're not full of yourself enough yet. Let's work on that. And
Yeah,
so I like to use that in the most fun and different way than you're
love
so
it.
full of yourself. What do people think about you? That putting down. That's how this is
Yeah.
used usually, right? This word.
Mm.
Yeah. So I have a lot of fun and when I work with people. It's
Oh,
not really serious at all. It's empowering, it's freeing, it's
yeah.
enlightening. It's
Okay,
knowledge, it's education. I'm an
definitely.
educator.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and I was thinking, you would be perfect to go into school and just teach the kids
Yes.
from whatever age they can grasp that with. So let's say from 8,
Yes.
9, 10 and onwards, right? How to use their body. If
Yes.
kids were to get that, if I was to get that when I was growing up, and that was repeatedly reinforced for several years, 2, 3, 4, that would empower me so much more, right? Rather than disempower me, disconnect me from my body. And I believe a lot of us, especially, and in my own work, those that come to work with me, they are so disconnected from their heart because there is so much burden in there, right? There's
Yes.
so many emotions, they're closing themselves down. And then my job is to as well to open them and free them, and having the knowledge that you have, that I just absorbed from you as well by talking to you over the last year, was so transformational.
Yeah,
Because if we are not friends with our body, then what kind of relationships do we have outside of ourselves, right? If
that's
we're
right. Because how I show up as my full self, full of
yeah,
myself, then I invite other people to do the same.
wow.
And I think with this client that I talked about,
Mm,
part of his problem was too when he was so shy, standing there, not knowing what to do with himself and putting hands in the pocket, or that felt weird too, or where, what to do. It also disconnected him from his colleagues and from other people at the coffee shop, that he maybe wanted to connect with. So it's
mm,
it's it's an extra layer of separation,
yeah,
feeling that awkwardness,
yeah.
and then connecting with other people.
I'm still curious to know, how did he began using his hands, right? Um, or Yeah, there's some unanswered question for me here. Was he just standing in this kind of a pose, or maybe like that with the newspaper, or leaning against the wall, or something? How did he overcome that, I wonder?
Um, Let me see if I can somehow. I don't know if I can explain this with the skeleton, but so you probably know very well that the body always functions as a whole, right? There's no such a thing that the arm functions by itself, or the head moves
Hmm.
by itself, or your toes do something by themselves. There's the spatial lines. Everything is connected. So when I feel awkward in my hands, everything feels awkward in the body.
Mm.
And that line of the arm, it's, let's say if the wing starts back here,
Hmm.
the wing starts really the wing starts by the sacrum. Okay.
Mm.
All those muscles, the trapezius, the latissimus, everything is coming up and also coming around,
Hmm.
coming around on the back
Hmm.
here, attaching to the arm bone, moving the arm bone. So there is this muscle coming here, there are these muscles coming up, and then they run down the arm. So it's this whole structure affected. But if you think about um, the muscles feeding into the wing, if this is the wing and then the arm is at the end of it, like
Hmm.
this, can you imagine like a cape,
Hmm. Hmm.
like the half a cape, right? Um, if you imagine all of this expanding and moving joint moving away from each other, you don't think about your arms anymore and you think your hands, because you're affecting your whole self in this dynamic self-expression that feels so strong and powerful. And that's what happened when my teacher was working with my head and my neck. Now I know what happened. He
Mm.
organized my head back into an aligned placement on top of the spine, which
Hmm.
also affected how my whole back felt, how my heart space, my lung space felt, how my legs connected down into the ground, so that I have this opposite force of gravity bringing me upright without any effort. And also,
Mm.
not only the lengthening happens, but also the wing,
Hmm.
both sides, they wide and open. So there was
Mm.
no more self-conscious feeling about myself.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, and
okay,
so he
yeah.
didn't have to think about his arms and fingers and hands
Mhm.
anymore, where to put them, because he was just enjoying this new balance over his feet, and this
Yeah.
lengthening happening in his body and the widening in his chest and in his back. So there is no, you take yourself away from the little worries and become a whole, fully embodied whole, the whole,
Yeah.
puzzle. It's like a puzzle piece. I always say to my students, we're starting with the blank puzzle frame, and every time we learn something, we put the puzzle piece. And maybe
Mm.
today we put the puzzle piece there, and tomorrow one there, and then
Mm.
one there, and then one there, and then maybe the one next to that. And like,
Yeah.
whoa, and then all of a sudden you see a connection. And it's always that the whole shines more. Each time you make a connection with the puzzle,
Mm-hmm.
you see the light shining through the puzzle as a
Mm.
whole. You feel it in your body. It's not an intellectual thing. It's an actual empowering feeling. Like a
Wow. Wow.
martial artist, who can go on a low horse. I happen to be a martial art practitioner also for 20 years, and I teach Tai Chi. So it's this whole being grounded, but also being this light expression.
Mm. Mm.
If you look at like Bruce Lee,
Mm.
the way he moves, he has these huge wings. If you look at his body, he has huge wings,
Uh-huh.
small arms, huge back, huge wings, strong legs, and he's very springy. So that
Mm.
is what how children are, right? They're springy, they jump, they climb, they run, and then they're still, and then they look at the little ladybug in the grass, they
Mm.
rest, it's a natural
Mm.
rest, and then they go jump again. So yeah, there's actually schools in England that work with children from like kindergarten on
Mm-hmm.
as an Alexander school. They work with the
Oh,
children and they
okay.
teach them a perfect balance
Yeah.
of quiet rest and then
Mm-hmm.
activity, and they have
Mm.
benches made of wood. I mean,
Mm.
imagine how people used to sit. They used to sit on logs, back in millions of years ago. Logs on the tree, not couches and soft furniture. And they didn't have to concentrate. They looked out over the horizon. Their
Yeah.
whole senses were heightened to be safe. But
Mm.
when we're forced to look at the book and to learn ABC
Mm.
too early in life, where the
Mm-hmm.
body doesn't really is the soul is not even ready for that. The
Mm.
body is not ready for that. When we're forced into it, we lose our connection to the environment and our senses get more dull. And then
Mm-hmm.
we just continue life like that, right? We go to university and then
Yeah.
we have a
Yeah.
job and we keep sitting, sitting, and then we have maybe 90 minutes
Uh-huh.
of exercise time
Yeah.
that we go for a class somewhere. But that's not
Definitely.
enough. What I am really about with the work is that you learn in everyday life. How do you
Mm.
how do you incorporate this freedom thinking, the way of thinking about freedom in yourself?
Mm.
It's not really nitpicking like tiny little parts that is very hard to do. No, it's like the turtle, huh? I realize, oh, I'm hiding right now. I'm taking my phone. I feel it. I tighten everywhere, and then I can say, wait, I can release it by allowing my head to find back the balance on the spine. And
Mm.
yeah, so it's a process work, and it's
Mm.
like the puzzle. The process becomes richer each time you learn more about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Definitely, definitely. And I believe if I was to circle and think us as a parents, right? If we were to learn this for ourselves, like we could really help our children, we could really help the people that we work with, um, to
Yes.
to pass on that knowledge, pass on that knowledge of the body and the wisdom of the body, and as you said, like the way everything is connected, and for women especially to feel empowered, to just imagine this vision, because I combine both the mind related work and the body, right? So if you wanted to feel more confidence, right? Or if you wanted to feel fearless or that you were enough, you can consciously train your body to be in the way that you are thinking, right?
Yes.
And there was a time, like last week, I was so tired. I was lying on the bed and I just thought to myself, okay, let me assume the position that my body wants to assume. And as I curled up like a child, right, I covered my head with my hands. And as I was lying in there, I was judging how I was feeling, right? I was like, oh my God, this is so heavy. And this is so heavy, but let me put my body into the position that is more freeing. So I stood up and I opened my arms, I opened my heart, I spread my legs, and I began breathing deeply in order to get more energy into the body. And that was so disorientating. So I was toggling between lying on the bed and kind of bringing more energy into my body until I felt really balanced and really okay with how I felt. And I could then proceed with the rest of my day
Yeah.
in a more balanced and kind of a connected way rather than being succumbed or trapped in one state versus the other.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Exactly. We have so much control over how we
Mm.
feel if we go through the body. That's really the key to understand that our body always listens to us and that what we're
Yeah.
saying to the body, it will make it come true. And what we're saying to ourselves is not conscious, right? It's the programs and beliefs that we have gathered from childhood that we have been told, good enough, or who do you think you are, feeling so great about yourself, right?
Mm.
Or who do you think you can sing? Who do you
Yeah.
think you are that you can sing and perform in your school performance? If anybody ever says that to a child, that is the belief planted, and she goes around her whole life feeling down on herself, and the body will suffer too, because it's that, like, oh, there's fear, I'm not good enough. That fear makes that
Mm.
instinct of hiding in your body under the shell, like the turtle.
Yeah.
So what she has to understand then later is that, oh, I created that. She
Mm.
created that herself with that belief. So
Mm.
what is that doing in our physical structure? How is it influencing the physical structure so it's no longer free and buoyant and light feeling and good feeling?
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
one thing. And the other thing is, oh, I remember that story, that I was being told, and I believed it somehow. It's not so interesting for me, for my work, to go back to all the stories, but what's happening right now? How do you feel? Can you feel that you no longer can breathe freely, and that
Mm.
maybe
Mm.
your head is flushed, or you feel terrible about yourself in your legs, or because you want to dance but you don't allow yourself to be on stage and be a performer anymore? Those kind of things are really influencing how you feel, and the more you
Wow.
can change the programs and the thinking, oh,
Mm.
I'm okay. I can have this belief, but I can still learn how to sit on my sit bones, and to know that my physical self is supposed to be upright, because I'm an upright
Yeah.
human being. I have developed evolutionary to be like this. How can
Mm.
I honor that design? And
Mm.
when you
Mm.
honor that design, those old feelings that you're not good enough, they disappear. That's what happened to me.
Yeah.
That
Really.
was my big transformation, that all of a sudden I felt so strong. And when my teacher worked with me, I'm like, what the hell is this? This is me. I'm
Yeah.
allowed to feel like this.
Wow.
So it's so powerful. And I get it all the time with clients. There's this one moment where, like, oh my God, how did I lose this?
Mm.
And we can get it back. And no matter how old you are, if you're a child that is just in kindergarten, or you're
Mm.
88 years old, which I have a client, by the way, who's 88, who wants to learn, she says, Flora, how can I walk through the room feeling like I don't give a F? An 88-year-old lady, beautiful lady.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, let's work with that. Amazing. And I
Yeah.
teach you about the structure and how your body is designed,
Mm.
by
Mm.
nature to work,
Yeah.
and her emotional parts. Like, where do these feelings come from that, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Flora. Wow. I hope that I really hope that this provides benefit to those that are listening, and not even that I hope, I know for sure 100%, right? It's so
Yeah.
super beneficial. And we are coming to a close, so if there was one thing that you could share with those that stumble upon this video and listen all the way to the end, if there was one thing that you could share from your own experience and your own knowledge, what would that be?
just the recognition that you're already everything that you're hoping to be. It is just covered up with old beliefs and old stories. And they cloud really the view of yourself as your wholeness that is perfect as it is. That you can see clearly your spirit and your soul. It's all covered up by all those old stories that you tell yourself. And those stories influence how you feel in your body. So by understanding how they influence your body, what they do to your body physically, practically, down to earth, what are they doing? How do they deform my relationship with gravity and with the space and with other people? When you understand it, you can change it. So power, the power is knowledge, right? Knowledge is power. So knowing how you work, how you function in your body, and then how your spirit and your mind are, the feedback loops that you have, to understand them, to program them in such a way that you're going forward and not staying stuck. It's not only possible, but it's very, very important to follow that path. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with you. Everything is already perfect. We just have to uncover all the layers that are in the way.
Exactly. Yeah, love it.
Just like what you teach, right?
Yeah, for sure. It breaks my heart. It honestly breaks my heart, when I see women and men and kids believing that they are not worthy, or that they somehow, that there's something wrong with them and everything
Me
else.
too.
So
Me
yeah.
too. It breaks my heart. That's why I'm so passionate about this, because it has helped me out of the slums of my life. And I have seen it many times, and I love helping people coming out of this, because nobody needs to feel bad about themselves. There's no reason except other people's voices from back in the day.
I know. True. Okay. And is there anything that you would like to offer? Maybe you have some workshops coming up, or some way that the people can connect with you if they would like to explore their own body and their own posture in the way that you teach.
Yeah, you can find me. So your audience can find me on my website.
I'll add the details down below in the comments. Okay.
Yes. There is much more information about how this works, how you can find out how to help yourself, because it's self-help basically. I'm just kind of the guide, but you need to do the work. So if it burns somewhere, then you're ready to change, the art of changing. My website, and then you can find me on Instagram and on Facebook. And yes, and there will always be workshops about something about the body and posture out next year for sure. So look out for that.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you very much, Flora, for this beautiful conversation, and for those that have joined us as well. If you feel compelled to add something in the comments down below, we'd love to hear from you. I always check the messages when they arrive. So yeah, thank you, and until we meet again.
Thank you so much for having me on your program, Erika. Much love.
Yeah.